Okay guys, let's listen to this music. There is something about this music by Tchaikovsky that really grabs you. But what is so special about this music? Join me today as we dive into Tchaikovsky's music and we explore what tools Tchaikovsky uses to create his music with that very specific flair. As a conductor, I've had the opportunity to work with quite a few orchestras on Tchaikovsky's music. I've already performed a few of his symphonies, his ballet music, some of his concertos as well, and every time I come back to Tchaikovsky's music, I recognize very distinctive patterns that come back in every one of his pieces. It's like seeing a good friend again and recognizing their traits that you've missed so much from last time. Join along in this video as we'll be talking about 4 distinctive traits or tools that Tchaikovsky uses in his music. Specifically, we'll be comparing music of his 6th symphony with his Manfred Symphony. Let's start. The first distinctive trait of Tchaikovsky can be seen in his large and intense string sections. Have a listen to this super intense tutti passage in Tchaikovsky's Manfred Symphony, first movement. This is like a super intense passage. Imagine 40 or 50 string players all playing the same music in octaves. It really grabs you by the soul when you listen that kind of music. And now compare this music to the 4th movement of Tchaikovsky's Pathétique Symphony, which is also very intense in its own specific way. Even if this is perhaps taken out of context of the symphony, we do feel an enormous suspense in this type of music that's absolutely typical for Tchaikovsky. Let's now look at a second distinct feature of Tchaikovsky, which is his memorable lyrical passages. There is this very well-known theme in Tchaikovsky's Pathétique that's so magical and lyrical. Let's have a listen to that. Of course, in this passage, there are also some winds and horns playing. But do you see how this melody is formed? It starts somehow hesitantly before the bar and then grows into the middle of the next bar, and this is repeated. Now, let's have a look at the same type of melody, but in Tchaikovsky's Manfred Symphony. It's quite impressive, right, to see how Tchaikovsky uses the same type of material before. So you really have like this crescendo and diminuendo in this first little motive, and it gets repeated into the second. And something quite funny, it's exactly the same 2 notes, F sharps and E, as in the other melody of the 6th symphony. That's a funny coincidence, right? Okay, let's continue now to a third distinctive way that Tchaikovsky uses to handle end of sections. So in a big symphony, usually there are like larger sections. And one way that Tchaikovsky has, both in the Manfred Symphony as in the 6th symphony, is to finish one of those sections really going down into the lower registers of the string instruments, somehow into the darkness of times. Let's have a listen to a portion of the first movement in Tchaikovsky's Pathétique. Do you see how in the cello section he uses like this little motive and he repeats it over and over again, every time becoming a little bit slower, a little bit softer, a little bit more darker, before then getting to the next subject. Now let's have a look at this same type of section ending Tchaikovsky uses in the Manfred Symphony. And again here, he uses these little movements of off-the-beats notes in the winds, repeated until we really understand, oh, this is the end of a section and we can start with something new. Let's now talk about a 4th distinct trait that Tchaikovsky uses specifically in these two symphonies, Manfred and the Sixth. The general atmosphere is quite dark, right? So it's quite gloomy and quite heavy. Let's listen how he finishes both times different movements of these two symphonies. Can you feel how Tchaikovsky uses these repeated notes in the woodwinds and in the horns to really create this insistent atmosphere? And then of course we've got a long and intense melody in the strings. Well, that's how Tchaikovsky makes this gloomy element in his Manfred Symphony. Let's go over now to the ending of the Pathétique Symphony. So in this case as well, we find this long, repeated, intense notes, very dark atmosphere in the double basses, while the rest of the orchestra is having these long and intense melodies. Except some details, it really looks to me like similar effects that he wanted to create between these two symphonies. So here you are. These are four distinctive traits of Tchaikovsky that when you listen to his music really create this distinctive look and feel of Tchaikovsky's music. Let me know in the comments if you can think of any other traits by Tchaikovsky, and of course don't forget to like and to subscribe. See you in the next video.